I love this from Alan. It says, I can see Martin Kemp working for Stephen. I used to see him regularly shopping in Rickmansworth, Waitrose, if you need to get in touch with him. What am I going to do? Hang about Waitrose?
We're now casting people from the supermarket.
Wait to see if Martin Kemp pops in. Oh, hi, Martin. Sorry to bother you. Put down that courgette. Would you like to play me in a movie?
Stephen Dixon in a movie. I think he'd say yes, you know. I think he'd be quite flattered.
I did sit next to him once.
You could have asked him yourself.
I can ask my mum.
Do you? Oh, well, there you go. You ask him, Liz Kershaw.
I'll ask him, would you like to be Stephen Dixon?
Yeah, you know what he'll say.
I think he's up for it. I think I would be if I were Martin Kemp. And you just heard Liz Kershaw there, because she's here to go through today's papers with us. So should we have a look at the front pages for you now? And the Mail leads with doctors urged to call off their strikes after millions of public sector workers were offered a bumper pay rise.
The Mirror says, is there any way back for Hugh Edwards? Onto our screens.
In the Express, migrants will face increased fees when they enter Britain to fund public sector pay rises.
And the Metro says England star Ellie has revealed he spent 6 weeks in rehab to kick his addiction to sleeping tablets.
Well, it's time to go through the papers now, and joining us this morning is broadcaster Liz Kershaw, alongside writer and journalist Andy Jones. Really good to see you both this morning. Andy, let's start with you, shall we? This is our top story this morning. It's about this pay rise for public sector workers. It's on the front page of the Mail. Many of the other papers, actually, this morning.
Indeed, it's everywhere. It's about time Rishi Sunak landed a blow, isn't it? And the Daily Mail are calling this his £5 billion gamble. Basic facts, teachers are being offered 6.5% pay rise. It's believed their official union is going to accept that. Doctors is a bit more complicated. They've been offered a 7% pay rise, but it is believed they're not going to accept that. Doctors' pay is currently, and it is a little bit confusing what doctors may get, but the junior doctors are on around 29,000, and then more qualified doctors are on up from 50,000 to 78,000, that sort of ballpark figure. But teachers have accepted, doctors are thinking about it. Doctors are demanding, of course, around 35% pay rise. Rishi Sunak is making the point that, look, families are going to have to pay for this. We've had lockdown, which many doctors were absolutely on board with, saying more stringent lockdowns, etc., etc. And the money's got to come from somewhere. Rishi Sunak saying it's not available. Doctors and other public sector workers suggesting that more money needs to come forward.
What do you reckon, Liz?
Well, I think they should scrap the term junior doctors for starters, because it's such a misnomer. It gives the wrong impression. They're not kids just out of medical school. It's anybody who hasn't yet made consultant or maybe even registrar. So there is a tendency, I think, to think, oh, they're juniors, so that's not a bad salary. But they could have been at that level for years, saving lives. I think, back to what I said last time I was on, I think they should scrap fees for medical school. I think the state should train doctors, nurses, midwives, physiotherapists, anybody in the NHS, and then, as with the army, they should be signed up for service for maybe 10 years and pay the country back, and probably review the whole pay structure of the NHS at the same time, from grassroots, rather than just fiddling about with percentages. Look at the whole thing. I think it needs re-evaluating.
So the problem with that at the current time is it would cost a whole load of money now, which we haven't got.
Might save some inefficiencies.
Well, it might.
A lot of waste.
In the long run, it might.
The government, as Liz makes the point, the government has got rid of a lot of the funding for medical students. We talked about it on this programme before, and instead the government's plan seems to be just sort of pinch doctors, nurses from India, Philippines, wherever else. And we don't have a structure to train as many as we need. One, because we say that there's no finances, but what does it cost us in the long run?
Yeah, but we have got this new 15-year plan, haven't we? For training new staff.
But that's been the policy with a lot of things in this country, hasn't it? Don't train, don't give people skills, just pinch them when they're already trained from other countries, and now it's happening to us because a lot of medical people are being enticed to Australia. I think the GPs need sorting out, since the contracts that the Blair government took out with them in the mid-noughties. They're all the people don't like the idea of a privatised health service, but all GPs are practically self-employed, and some of them not all, are on a right Beano, and since lockdown particularly, hardly put the foot inside a surgery.
Well, yeah, I think it does need looking at.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at Boris Johnson and his WhatsApp messages and old phones, Liz, in the Times.
This is unbelievable, isn't it? So he's offered, he made a big gesture, which was applauded in many quarters. Yes, you can see anything I've got nothing to hide. You can have access to all my WhatsApp messages for this inquiry into the pandemic and the procedures that the government undertook, like lockdowns, how were these decisions made? Boris, can we see your phone? Yeah, no problem, totally transparent. Except I forgot that I changed my phone, and now on the old phone I've forgotten the password, and it's a real dilemma, and they can't unlock it. They say it can't be unlocked and they can't read the WhatsApp. Well, my advice is just go to Milton Keynes Market tomorrow.
Yes.
There's a bloke on a stall there, and he'll do it for you.
Yeah.
Any old nick phone in the Milton... I shouldn't say that, but any phone can be...
No, you shouldn't.
...unlocked. If you go to the right
The
person.
point
You have
is,
the means,
the issue with this is, that strikes me as very odd, is, well, he might not remember the passcode, but he's probably got face unlock or fingerprint or something like that.
Face unlock's more recent than that.
But also, has he changed his number? Or even if he has changed with WhatsApp, you port all your messages onto your new phone and new number.
Well, yeah, with everything, if you get a new phone and you keep the same number, everything goes across. All your texts, all your emails. That's my experience.
Yeah, so why are they not on his new phone?
He might have changed the number because it does say in the article.
But even with that, with WhatsApp, you can change your number.
Yeah.
And it transfers them over.
But being PM, he might have extra layers of security on it.
Yeah, they're saying because
well,
it's a diplomatic phone, obviously it's harder to hack. But the idea that we can't even get into the Prime Minister's phone or that he can't remember his passcode is quite incredible. It's amazing what Boris Johnson doesn't remember. Doesn't remember how many kids he's got, doesn't remember if he was at a party or not, whether it was happening in his own house. Incredible.
Yeah, it's a bit worrying.
Andy, let's have a look at this story, shall we? I think it's incredibly brave, actually. Ellie speaking out about being abused as a child, really, and his addiction since that time.
To sleeping tablets, yeah. So this is Dele Alli, the former Tottenham footballer, England international, who's got 37 caps for England, played in that World Cup semi-final against Croatia, of course, under Gareth Southgate a few years ago. His career has had a bit of a downturn since. It's worth talking about the chronology of Dele Alli's life. He said he was sexually molested aged 6 by a friend of his mother. His mother was an alcoholic. His dad wasn't really on the scene. By the age of 7, he was smoking. By the age of 8, he was being used by local drug runners to move drugs around town on his bike. Aged 11, he was hung off a bridge by some random bloke on another estate. And then aged 12, he was adopted by a friend of his at school, and that helped shape and save his life, really.
But I think this is really interesting. There's lots of negative stuff that people are saying. Oh, look what he's been through. Look at the addictions. Look at all this other thing. But let's look at the positives in this. And one of the big positives is the wonders that adoption can be, and the way it's saved this young man's life, really.
Yeah, I mean, he was dragged off to Africa as well by his dad. He wanted him to live with him. That was obviously a turbulent thing for him to go through. And this wonderful family had brought him in and gave him the structure, organisation, and also the love and belief behind him. But as we see so often with sort of childhood trauma, it manifests in adult life. And now at the age of 27, he's, a few years ago he had the world at his feet, but he's now become addicted to sleeping tablets. He says sleeping tablets are a big problem in football. It's moving around different clubs because, obviously, footballers, you can't necessarily drink alcohol because it shows up on your blood tests. You have to watch what you eat. You can't be out too late, etc., as a footballer because, obviously, cameras everywhere, etc. And so, very often they fall onto things like sleeping tablets because it's a private thing that can help switch off these anxious things that Dele has obviously gone through.
I mean, I was struck by not only, as you say, Stephen, I mean, the wonderful positives of adoption, but also sport and how sport and discipline can actually turn around a person's life as well. I mean, he's clearly got a talent, but that's also saved his life.
Absolutely, and he is an incredible player. I mean, his ability to score goals, his ability to attack from midfield, there's things that Dele Alli can do on the pitch. Certainly a few years ago, not necessarily the case at the moment because he's got a hip injury and he's had obviously these mental health problems which has resulted in being in rehab. But yeah, it's transformative, and I hope that we don't look at his career. There's a lot of articles about his wasted talent and what's going wrong with Dele Alli and a lot of this sort of allegations and things, but. Let's hope he can turn it round. Let's hope this can be another triumph, because obviously what he's come from shows the power of sport, shows the power of adoption, but also shows the power of this young man who's achieved so much.
Yeah,
no, I agree.
It means that other people can speak out as well. I mean, he's given them that.
There are so many young people in the 20s that I know through my own sons who are on basically pills from the doctors, you know, happy pills. It's a trite name for them, but there's so many side effects of antidepressants, physical and mental, but it just seems to be a real epidemic in young people. They've no hope of ever buying a house, etc. And somebody famous highlighting this and suggesting you can overcome these things and pull yourself round could help. I mean, obviously, not all young people can become footballers or pop stars, can they? But
even just to see someone at that level also struggles, I think.
Must help somebody
people.
who seems to have it all and is still struggling. Yeah,
I think it's very brave.
No, good on him. Liz, should we talk about migrants and one of the PM's new plans?
Yeah. Well, it's going to... One of Rishi Sunak's famous five was going to stop the boats coming across the channel, and now he's going to give teachers 6.5% and nurses 7%, and he's not. And Jeremy Hunt said, Chancellor, I'm not going to put up taxes to achieve this. And so the business plan is that you charge migrants more. What I see a little bit flawed about this is another, you know, one of his main things, selling points to the public, is I'm going to cut migration. So it's like saying I'm going to increase revenue per migrant, but I'm going to cut the numbers. Now, I know it's not the people coming over it illegally without documentation in boats being put in RAF camps. Is saying it's the people who come here and they want to work and they want to get a visa and they want to do the citizenship test.
But he's never said they're going to cut migration numbers.
He said he's going to stop the boats.
No, that's illegal migration.
Yeah, so that's potentially stopping 80,000 people last year.
But they've never said they're going to cut back on legal migration.
No, but he said he's going to stop the boats, so that's suggesting to the public to be pedantic, not pedantic. It's suggesting to the public, I'm going to stop that lot arriving. That's 80,000 or maybe 100,000 this year. Therefore, ergo, I'm cutting immigration. So... but he's going to charge people who take the legal route through the proper channels and take the trouble to apply to come here for jobs at a certain level. Is going to charge them more, and that's going to pay everybody else. I don't think it's a good business plan or economic policy.
OK.
Well...
And you've got time for one more, so let's take a look at the Telegraph, shall we? The front page. COVID will hurt education for years. That's a warning from MPs.
Who'd have thought it? You know, locking down kids, not allowing them to go to school, completely stalling the economy, as we've talked. The IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that rather shadowy organisation we hear rather a lot about in Washington, they say, official statement, scars from the pandemic, including to students' learning and skills training, could weigh on economies for years to come. Who'd have thought it? The global economy was expected to grow by 3% last year, but it is well below that. And basically, they say, where's my quote? That today's pupils will face £350 billion in lost earnings. That's not each, by the way, that's collectively. But it is.
How did he work that out?
This is why they're the International Monetary Fund, and this is why we're on this desk here. But you're quite right. How have they worked that out? Because of future economic conditions, etc., etc. But one of the chilling things is the sheer number of pupils who are missing half of their lessons, and that's now up to 120,000 pupils who are missing more than half of their lessons. And I think, well, we talked about disrupted childhoods earlier with Dele Alli, but if you can't go to school, how are you going to hold down a job? If you can't turn up on time at school broadly at least half the time, how are you going to then hold down a job, career?
Do we blame this all on COVID? I mean, I mean, obviously, it's a trigger point, if you like, but where are the parents in all of this saying, well, you've got to get to school, you've got to do this, you've got to do that? Why aren't they stepping up?
Yeah, quite. Some of them are probably working several different jobs because of the down. Some maybe lost work, etc. Some of the kids may be off the rails. I absolutely don't know, but you're quite right. Where are the figures?
I think a lot of parents expect the school to do the whole job. Feed them.
Absolutely.
Discipline them, teach them morals, sex education, the lot. You know, I don't see it as a parent myself. I never saw it like that. But there are some people that thinks it's a nanny
Even
state.
dragging them to school is the school's
yeah.
responsibility.
Well, that's not the way it works, is it?
No.
If you've got views on any of that, gbviews@gbnews.com.
Thank you.
Liz, Andy, thank you very much indeed. We'll see you later on.